Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Journal of Advertising Research podcast. I'm Dr. Stephen Park from Queen Mary, University of London, and today I'm delighted to speak with Jia Heng Lee and Professor Hyun Baek about their article titled Consumer Responses to LGBTQ-Themed Advertising, a computational analysis of YouTube comments, published in the Journal of Advertising Research in 2026. As more brands engage with diversity and inclusion, understanding how consumers respond has become increasingly important. This study explores that question by analyzing more than 20,000 YouTube comments, offering a unique perspective on how consumers naturally respond to LGBTQ-themed advertising. Jia Heng and Professor Pak, welcome to the podcast. Please introduce yourself.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here. My name is Jia Heng Lee, and I'm a PhD student at Sungkyunkwan University in South Korea. I'm delighted to have the opportunity to share our research with the GIA community.
Thank you for having me, Dr. Park. I'm so happy to be here, and I also want to say that my first author, Kahang Lee, he has really made every effort in creating and writing this paper. So he's going to talk a bit about this research project and the motivation to do well. And I hope that you just lead us for this interview.
Thank you. It's nice to see you all. Let's begin with the paper itself. For listeners who haven't had a chance to read your article yet, Jia Hong, could you briefly tell us what it's about and what you found?
Absolutely. Over the past decade, LGBTQ-themed advertising has become much more visible. Many brands actively support diversity and inclusion, especially during Pride Month. At the same time, these campaigns often generate very different reactions online. Some people celebrate them, while others question the brand's interactions or even reject the message altogether. This leads us to a simple question. How do consumers respond to LGBTQ-themed advertising in a real social media environment? Most previous studies have explored these topics through surveys or experiments. We wanted to add another perspective by looking at what consumers naturally see online. To do that, we analyzed more than 20,000 YouTube comments using computational text analysis. One thing that surprised us was that the overall conversation was actually more positive than we expected. Discussions about pride, inclusion, and family values were often associated with emotions such as joy and trust. At the same time, some topics generated more divided responses. Conversations about drag culture, gender roles, and brand activism were more polarized. What really stood out to us was that people weren't only reacting to the advertisement itself, they were also evaluating the brand behind it.
That's really
Right.
interesting. So the key takeaway is that consumer responses depend not only on how LGBTQ communities are presented, but also on whether the brand is perceived as authentic.
That's right. Rather than treating LGBTQ themed advertising as a single category, we show that different forms of representation can generate very different consumer responses.
Now let's turn to practical side of the research. Most of our listeners work in advertising. Based on your findings, what advice would you give to brands developing LGBTQ themed advertising campaigns?
I think there are three practical takeaways. The first is that inclusion shouldn't be treated as a seasonal campaign. It should be part of a brand's long-term commitment. They paid close attention to why the brand's attentions were consistent with its message. If people feel that a campaign reflects genuine values, they are much more likely to respond positively. The second takeaway is that different forms of LGBTQ representation create different audience responses. Some stories, particularly those centered on love, family, and community, were generally well received. Others, such as drag culture or gender expression, generated much more discussion and debate. That doesn't mean brands should avoid these topics, rather, it suggests that different stories require different communication strategies. Finally, I think brands should pay close attention to online conversations. Most companies monitor views and engagement, but comments often reveal something much more valuable. They help us understand what consumers appreciate, what concerns them, and how they interpret a campaign. Today, computational tools make it much easier to learn from those conversations and improve future campaigns.
Thank you. So your advice is straightforward. Be consistent, understand your audience, and listen to what consumers are saying.
Yes, social media isn't just a place to distribute advertising, it's also a place to learn from consumers.
All right. Now I'd like to go back to where it all began. Every research project starts with a question or an observation. So Jia Heng, where did the idea for this article come from?
It actually began with the comment sections. As we read through YouTube comments on LGBTQ-themed advertisement, we noticed that people weren't all talking about the same thing. Some praised the campaigns for promoting diversity and inclusion. Others questioned the brand's intentions while much discussed broad issues such as brand values, gender expression, and social responsibility. That made us wonder why the same advertisement could generate such different conversations. Rather than asking people what they thought in a survey, we wanted to examine what they naturally discussed when no one was asking them questions. That's really how the project began.
That's interesting. So in a way, the comment section became your research setting.
Yes, social media has become a place where people openly discuss brands, advertising, and social issues at the same time. Those conversations provide a level of listeners that's difficult to capture with traditional measures alone.
Professor Pack, I would like to also like to hear your perspective. Why did you think this was an important question to study?
Thank you for asking that. Let me tell you something. I think that there are two main reasons. The first goal was the changing role of advertising. Today, brands are expected to much more than promoting the product, you know. So that's why someone was like, advertising is like a just reflection of our society. Also, the point I just want to point out that the consumers increasingly expect them to communicate the value and engage with more broader social issues. That was changes the way advertising works in the contemporary world, and it also raises new questions about how consumers interpret those LGBTQ advertising messages. Second reason was this is all about methodology. I mean, the most previous study on LGBTQ study heavily rely on surveys or experiment study, which has provide more valuable insight into understanding how consumers respond to the LGBT representative in advertising. At the same time, millions of consumers are already sharing their opinion online every day. We felt that there was an opportunity to learn from those naturally occurring the conversation on social media, especially YouTube. More importantly, we are not interested in using just the computational method simply because I mean there's something's new. We wanted to use them to answer meaningful advertising question that traditional survey or experiment method could not fully address.
I like that distinctions. The innovation isn't the method itself, it's how the method helps answer a more important research question.
Well, that's right. I mean, you fully understand what I'm talking about. I mean, the new method is very valuable only just when they uh, deepen our understanding of consumers' behaviors or response to the advertising. Computation analysis and the traditional approaches must is two different methodologies should complement each other altogether. I mean, they give us the more complete understanding of how people respond to advertising and more focus on LGBTQ themes advertising.
That's a great perspective. Now, let's move on to one of the biggest challenges you encounter during the projects. Every research project comes with its own challenges. Looking back on this study, what would you say was the biggest challenge?
For me, the biggest challenge wasn't the computation itself, it was interpreting the data. Collecting more than 20,000 YouTube comments was time consuming, but understanding what those comments actually meant was much more difficult. Online conversations are often emotional, sarcastic, or highly contextual. The same expression can communicate support in one situation and criticism in another. For example, some comments contained negative words, but they were actually criticizing discrimination rather than the advertisement. Others used humor or irony, which isn't always easy for automated sentiment analysis to capture. That meant we couldn't rely on computational results alone. We spent a great deal of time reading comments, discussing different interpretations, and manually validating the findings. Although the process was time consuming, I think it made the results much more reliable.
That's really interesting. Now, let's look ahead. After completing this project, what questions do you think researchers should explore next?
Yeah, I think there are several exciting directions wide to move beyond a single platform. Our study focused on YouTube because it processed rich conversations around video advertising, but consumers communicate different across platforms such as Instagram, TikTok, Reddit, and X. It would be interesting to see why the same campaign generates different conversations depending on the platform. Another direction I think is across cultural research. Audience toward LGBTQ issues vary across countries and cultures. A campaign that receives strong support in one market may be understood very differently somewhere else. Understanding those differences would help both researchers and global brands communicate more effectively.
All right, Professor Beck, how do you see this area developing over the next few years?
Well, I think that this area will continue to grow for a couple of reasons. First of all, I mean, the brands are becoming increasingly involved in the social and cultural issues. As you see, LGBTQ is one of the hottest issue in terms of brand activism campaign. So as a result, I mean, the understanding how consumers respond to the brand activism after the campaign or diversity or inclusive advertising will become more important. And second of all, I mean, the advertising research and practitioners now have access to the bunch of consumer-related data. Like they try to collect and analyze YouTube users' comment that we collected for this project. And I think that what this opportunity is so great, and but it also comes with big responsibility as advertising researchers. So collecting more data is just only the just beginning. I think that the challenge is asking the meaningful research question and using those big data to generate a more theoretical and practical insight that matter to the our advertising community and society. No single method can answer every question, obviously. So different methods provide a little different, perspective, and altogether they help us to build a more big picture or a better understanding of how people respond to the advertising.
Hmm, that's a great point. It sounds like the future is really about asking better research questions and making the best use of the methods available.
Yeah, of course. I mean, as advertising continues, evolve, and well, definitely our research approach is just this. We have the same pace, and we try to just evolve as well.
Jia Heng and Professor Beck, thank you both for joining us today. It's been a wonderful conversation. I'm sure our listeners have enjoyed learning more about your research and its implications for both advertising practice and future research. Thank you for joining us, and thank you everyone for listening. Do you have any comments for JAR readers?
Thank you, Professor Park. It was a pleasure to discuss our research with you. I hope our study encourages researchers to explore consumer conversations in real-world digital environments and inspire practitioners to think more carefully about authenticity, inclusive advertising. Thank you for listening.
All right. Thank you so much for having the real great opportunity share our research finding and motivation with you and JAR readers based on our podcast and our conversation. And I hope that our conversation definitely inspire potential or future researchers to continue to asking very important questions that are relevant to the LGBTQ, how people respond to advertising in the more realistic way. I mean, in this way, I mean, I hope that we are going to give you just a basic research foundation to help the people to do well in their future research direction. So thank you so much, right?
Thank you.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you.